The one and only Jesse Ventura delivers on this edition of Politicking. Welcome to Politicking. I'm Larry King. He's gone to war. He's battled in the pro wrestling ring and won in the political arena. And now, Jesse Ventura delivers his marijuana manifesto. And he's here in our studios to talk about it. He's the former independent governor of Minnesota, former pro wrestler, Navy SEAL, New York Times best-selling author. His latest book is Jesse Ventura's Marijuana Manifesto. It's out right now, and we'll talk about it in a little while. But less than a month ago to Election Day, what's your analysis of this current presidential campaign?
Well, it's my analysis of it. How would I describe it if I put it into movie terms? National Lampoon's Animal House, maybe? I don't know, Larry, how you would describe this election. It's gone to places that in my 65 years I've never seen an election go to before. It's turned into a reality-type TV show now to me. I don't even watch the debates because because there's nothing. I'm not voting for either of these candidates. I will vote third party as I always do. And
why wouldn't you listen to the issues as they discuss them, though?
Because they don't discuss issues that affect me.
But you don't know that if you don't watch it.
Well, they discuss issues, but I'm not voting for them, so it doesn't. They couldn't say anything. Both of them are pro-war. Both of them will keep us in the war. I will not vote for anyone who will continue this folly of war.
Let's discuss some of the things that have happened. What's your reaction to the Access Hollywood audio tape of Donald Trump talking about women?
To me, it's much ado about nothing, really, because it's someone's past, and it has no bearing necessarily on how they would govern. I think that I would rather, and I'm not a Trump supporter, but I would rather hear things that affect me and affect my family and affect the United States of America. And what Donald Trump said in a personal interview to someone at Access Hollywood, that's like the National Enquirer.
How about Trump's bringing up Bill Clinton's problems?
Again, if we were electing people on their moral values, there wouldn't be a Republican or Democrat that we could even put in office. How would that be for an answer, Larry?
All right, so why is this campaign not like this? You're saying it's the worst you've never seen anything
Well,
like.
It's nothing but a National Enquirer reality TV show. It's sunk for ratings now. I guess you'd compare it to News Today, to News when Walter Cronkite was here. You know, in the old days, the news was there to inform you. Today, it's there to get ratings points, and they've turned the election into a ratings bonanza, all about getting rating points and making money.
But if the late Walter Cronkite, who I knew very well, was alive, he'd have to cover it.
Well, that would be his job.
Yeah.
I bet he'd do it. You know what, Larry? I bet he'd do it, but I bet he'd be plugging his nose the whole time he was doing it.
How much do you think the voting public has a right to know about the private life of politicians?
I don't think that they have that right, because not that much. Because I remember when I ran for governor, I went on the steps of the Capitol in cold January and announced my run for governor. And the first thing the press asked me was, well, where's your family? Because I did it without them. And I looked at the press, I said, this has nothing to do with my family. I said, this is the business of running the state of Minnesota. My family has nothing to do with that. And I believe the presidency should be handled the same way.
But if there are defects, you think any defects in the personality of a candidate should not count?
Well, certainly. But what is a defect in the eye of the beholder?
Lying.
They all do that, Larry. I mean, if we're going to bring out the lying meter, we wouldn't have a candidate out there who could even run.
But that was said back in Jefferson said that about Burr, and Burr said that about Hamilton.
That's right. In fact, in my previous book, Crap Politicians Say, I was amazed at how our forefathers talked about each other. But yet, what were they able to do? They were able to set all that aside and still develop the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and create this great country. The problem today is we have politicians that don't set that aside. They don't. It comes down to this, Larry, both of these. They put their parties first, their money people second, and the country's third.
You were in the military, you were a pro wrestler. Which of those two occupations prepared you better to be governor?
Both. Both, I could answer that. They both did equally, because being in the military taught you about getting the job done and sacrifice and what you would have to do that. Pro wrestling prepared me because you have to sell yourself in pro wrestling the same way a politician has to sell himself. And you have to be comfortable at the mic, you have to be comfortable in front of cameras, and you got to be able to talk. Why do you think if I would have ran for president, they would have not dared let me in the debates, because there ain't a politician out there who can out-talk a pro wrestler. And Donald knows that. So does Hillary. I butted heads with her when I ran for governor.
Why?
She came to Minnesota, and right away she said it was time to stop the carnival show. She referred to my candidacy as a carnival show. And it was right at the time that Bill had his, shall we say, indiscretions. And I came back and fired right back at her bow and said, it seems to me that Hillary should worry more about what Bill's doing while she's gone, rather than coming to Minnesota and try to influence our political race.
What do you think the country would be like under President Trump?
I don't know. Hard to say.
Are you surprised at his success?
Yeah, you know, everyone, the media laughed him off at the start. And the reality is, Larry, the Trump people and the Bernie Sanders people are the same. But follow me. One's far left, one's far right, so they never could meet. But they essentially want the same thing. They want an overthrow of the federal government as they've watched it deteriorate in the last decades. They want the house cleaned. But the problem is the two factions both are out on the wings. That's how the status quo has been able to survive this onslaught, this war to overturn the politics as usual in America.
Don't you think we're still a pretty good country?
Damn right we are.
So
we're the best country in the world.
How could that happen?
But we have a rigged election. When Donald Trump says the election, because third parties aren't allowed, because they build a standard so you can't hear a third voice that's unattainable. If they used 15% on me, I would not be the governor. I was polling 9% at Labor Day. I was allowed in the debates, and in 60 days, I was the governor of Minnesota. These two parties are not going to allow that to happen. You see them singing Kumbaya on that. Where do they come up with this 15%? You know what it should be based upon, Larry? If you have ballot access in enough states in the union to win the presidency, you should be allowed in the debates, which means Dr. Stein and Governor Johnson should have been allowed in these debates. That's why they're fixed. They're rigged.
Perot was in.
Once. And they stopped him the second time after getting 1 out of 5 votes. They wouldn't let him in 96 because they took control from the National League of Women Voters.
Are you saying there's no difference between Clinton and Trump?
I'm saying there's no difference between their parties because they're bought off by the same corporate interests. If you go to the Republican convention and the Democrat convention, you'll see the same corporations. They're buying them off. For laymen, your layman people out there, that's the equivalent of betting on the Super Bowl. If you bet on both teams, you don't lose, do you?
Oh. But you don't win. You win and
you win. Yes, you do.
Oh, yeah.
You win because you own them both, so it doesn't matter who wins.
Why is there so much, in your opinion, polarization in America? Why do people hate Hillary Clinton? Why can't you dislike? Why can't you disagree with her thoughts without hating?
I don't know. I get introduced many times. They'll introduce me, Jesse Ventura, love him or hate him. And I've actually stopped the person and said, why would you hate me? You can disagree with the positions I take. You might have disagreed with me as a governor, but I did the best I could. I did what I believed in. And why would you hate me over that? See, I think that a lot of this is propelled by our media. Our media is out for rating points. So if they can create controversy, if they can create reality TV and get ratings numbers, they make money. And that's what it all comes down to now. So the media is as guilty as anybody in creating this new electoral atmosphere we have.
You support the libertarian Gary Johnson, former governor.
Yeah. I could support Jill Stein, too, Dr. Stein, either one of them.
Well, but Johnson, hasn't he disappeared? He didn't know what Aleppo was.
Half of America didn't know what it was.
Oh, so what? But he's running for president.
Well, if you've advocated getting out of the war completely, as he and I do, what do we need to know who Aleppo is?
Well, it would be nice.
We're saying get out. Then we don't even need to know about Aleppo, do we? The only reason we know about Aleppo is because we're over there fighting halfway around the world again, Larry. Like, that's all we do in my lifetime is go hold wars halfway around the world that are meaningless. They accomplish nothing except drain our economy. We've got an infrastructure here, Larry, that needs attention. Right in America. The best way we could do that, get out of these wars, let's start spending money on fixing our own backyard before we worry about the backyards of everywhere else in the world.
We're going to get to the marijuana book in a couple of moments.
Yep.
Your reaction to and this is a viable concern, that Russia is hacking into the election.
My reaction
aren't they?
I don't know. That's what they're telling us.
Well, it looks that way.
Well, they also said they didn't have us under surveillance, too, didn't they? The government has quite a reputation for not telling us the truth. They told us they didn't have us under surveillance, and they do.
Why would our government lie about Russia hacking us?
Because they want another enemy. They want to create and keep the Cold War going. They want to continue with this hatred between us and Russia, so it supports the military-industrial complex, and that keeps wars up on the front burner throughout the world, so it supports the war people who make money profiteering from wars.
So you don't blame Putin for any of this? Come on.
I want to know. Well, I blame that the media is killing the messenger and not the message. The message is the Democrats cheated. Bernie Sanders got cheated, and yet they floss that over. Oh, but it's the Russians that exposed it. We need to pay attention to the Russians, not the very fact that the whole thing was rigged against Bernie. What was exposed proved it. So here you've got the Democratic Party being as dishonest as they could possibly be with their own voters, and yet that's overlooked. Let's blame, like Snowden. Let's blame if they hadn't written those things in the first place, there would have been nothing to release, would there, Larry?
Stay right there, Governor. We'll be right back with Jesse Ventura after the break, and we're going to talk about his brand new book. Don't go away.